Welcome to the Life Science Success Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don Davis. I'm a consultant in life sciences. I help companies manage complexity and increase performance. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, there is a OKR guide that I have on my website that's available for download, in addition to a training class that comes along with that. It's all free for anybody that's looking to deploy metrics inside of their organization as you look to scale. Today, in this episode of the Life Science Success Podcast, my guest is Amita Goel. Amita is the CEO of Celltheon. They're a global leader in the cell line development for Next Generation Bio-therapeutics. And so with that, welcome, Amita.
Thank you for having me today. Don, it's a pleasure to be on your podcast, and I look forward to chatting with you some more.
Yeah, thanks so much. So can you tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself and your career?
Sure. So I've been in the industry for almost 30 years and have a graduate degree in microbiology. I have a significant experience in research and development with small startups to large pharma. I've worked at various levels in these organizations and headed up various leadership positions over my career. I've worked on leading edge technology, biotechnology, and developed various expression platforms and processes for different biologics that were, as I was working at all these organizations. Specifically, I worked in preclinical development with not only mAbs, but also cell therapy, gene therapy in the very early days when it was just coming on board. And since then, those very early days, they've kind of informed me of my way forward.
It seems like this is the right place and right time for so many gene therapies as well. I mean, it's such an exciting time. I know that there's, new things that seems like that are in the news all the time anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many new indications coming along, and you need new technologies to. But obviously, the old technologies are not going to work, and that's why we're going to focus a lot of the discussions today on.
Yeah. So did I pronounce the company's name right? So I think I said Celltheon. Is that correct?
Exactly, Celltheon.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. And so, I mean, whenever I looked at your background, it looked to me like you had a long history, inside of, different life science companies from Gilead to Elan Pharmaceuticals. So what led you to Celltheon?
So yeah, this is actually interesting perspective. I worked at Elan and at Gilead. I worked in various R&D and preclinical product development, and I worked in the CMC area for a number of their lead biologics-based products. And at these various organizations, I learned the best industry practices, how to work with teams, and do a lot of program management, product development. And over my career, I was exposed to various expression technologies, and I saw the challenges that existed with the existing platforms for creating these biologics, and also the shortcomings for developing the next generation of these complex biopharmaceuticals. Could they really be done on these platforms? That was always a question in my mind, because uh, once a product works for a certain indication, for example, a molecule, then the innovator company wants to do clinical trials for other indications. And so I would see that the manufacturing requirement would just explode. While I was at Gilead, for example, requiring manufacturing scale up for all the different indications, and you were doing productions in this CMO, that CMO, everywhere. And all these new generation of molecules will not work on the older technologies, basically. And you can't just go by doing manufacturing by brute force and using the existing technologies to hope that you can really move your manufacturing fast and get the kilograms of material that you need for all these different indications. And I thought this was the way it was being done was really quite wasteful. As I visited these plants, I saw that there were a lot of disposables being used, the cost of raw materials, and the added timelines for procurement, resources, all that were needed to support these productions. So this basically was creating a cascade, series of problems that you're creating to solve that one problem, and this is really costly and is unproductive. So you're trying to solve one problem where you're coming up with solutions for a patient, but you're creating so many more problems and wastefulness on the planet that is going to really think about it. Where are we going to continue expanding these manufacturing facilities? Continue
Right.
and continue. So we have to start working really smartly and responsibly in how we create these next generation biologics. If in 2012, when I started, the global biologics market size was about 130 billion, 150 billion. And by 2021, it had reached 250 billion last year. And we are projecting that by 2030, it's going to reach somewhere about 700 to 800 billion. So after I left Gilead, I was itching to platform many of my learnings that I had accumulated and build the next generation biopharmaceutical manufacturing platforms. And in 2012, I took the plunge and started Celltheon to serve the growing market needs.
Yeah, it's so and in the midst of this, we also got, and I'm not sure who this is. That's why if you saw me looking down for a moment, it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention to you. I actually saw this comment come across. I was trying to understand who it is, but they said, good to see two of my knowns and accomplished professionals on the same screen. Congratulations and all the best. Not sure who that was because it shows up as LinkedIn user to me, but thank you so
Okay.
much. I appreciate it. But yeah, I was trying to figure it out. I'm looking, I even brought up LinkedIn because I thought, well, maybe I could track down who it was and just say thank you.
That would be nice to know.
Yeah. I'm sure we could find out after the show, and they're just hearing it now. So just with the delay, there's a little bit of a delay for us as well. But I mean, it sounds to me like, I mean, the work that Celltheon is doing in terms of supporting like the next generation of biotherapeutics is extremely important, but it's also very timely, right? I mean, I just feel like there are so many organizations that are working on this as well, and so yeah, I mean I feel like it's a really important time in general as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So there we go, we got the name, so it's Jitin. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyway, so can you tell us about
Celltheon.
Celltheon, sorry, and what they do and what sort of organizations Celltheon serves?
Sure. Okay. So I'll go back a little bit as to how I started Celltheon. So after I left Gilead, after all um, that background that I was giving about where I went with Gilead, I started to think about that we really need to have better solutions for manufacturing. So um, in 2012, I moved to I got a small space of about 200 square foot of lab space. And after a few months, I hired my first scientist to help me, and I completely bootstrapped it with personal funds and revenues from a couple of clients that I knew since I was working in the industry for so long. I got very early on several clients, and with that, is how I started in that small space, and that basically gave us the initial momentum to get started, and then slowly we increased our team and moved to a larger facility and so forth. But now we've grown quite well and we're expanding. We have small startups to large biopharma that are using our technologies and services from drug development to manufacturing phases. So initially, we focused on developing a recombinant protein manufacturing platform, which we've been using to provide cell line development services and process development services for innovator next generation molecules and biosimilar development clients. So as our team has grown, we now have completed our development of the cell line development, the Celltheon Smart platform, and which basically comprises of all the modalities of biomanufacturing from transient and stable recombinant protein production, transient and stable AAV production, DNA plasmids, and bispecific platforms. So all of these we've been working on. And by early next year, we'll be publishing a lot of the data on the newer technologies that are coming on board. And there are several new exciting technologies that are coming along that we should be able to talk about it more next year.
That's good. And then in terms of like where you get started with most companies, so as they come along in terms of developing a gene therapy, do you start very early on, or do you work with them throughout? I'm just curious, like where do companies normally approach Celltheon?
So we are right now offering all our services that are on the protein biotherapeutics part, and cell and gene therapy services will come on board more next year. But our clients come in very early on with just the genetic sequence, and we have expression vectors and cell lines, and we make stable cell lines for them. So basically, we have at this point optimized our platform with all these patented technologies that in just a matter of 5 weeks, we can get them stable pools, which are at about 6 grams per liter. and then in a matter of few months, we can make clonal cell lines that are 8 to 10 grams per liter. And this is not with just a fed batch process, not even anything like a concentrated fed batch of perfusion, none of that, but straight 10, 14-day process. So this is the first platform that has gone into clients' hands. We've developed a number of products, almost 1,000 different molecules have been used on our platform, and we focus a lot on the difficult to express proteins, and which result in significantly higher titer and high product quality. And because it's interesting that a lot of the CMOs and the bigger companies that are doing GMP, they don't want to touch these molecules. They are very difficult, really. You're talking about nanobodies, bispecifics, and then with like a cytokine attached to another antibody, nanobodies, all of these molecules. We take this on because we've optimized our platform to really, express these molecules. And so we say, okay, we'll develop an upstream. The client asks us to even develop an upstream process, a downstream, and the analytical methods, because it's not your standard MAB anymore, right? Where you can do a protein A and purify, but the analytics is different. So we develop all of this, and then the entire package we then transfer to CMOs. So then from there, they can scale up easily. And we've transferred a number of these programs for our clients, and this is where then the CMO picks up. And then, interestingly, we are working with a number of different GMP, CMO manufacturing organizations, and also on larger initiatives, considering all the stuff that's going on with the Biden administration. We're talking about larger initiatives of GMP manufacturing with our partners and keeping manufacturing in the US too. So, and the other thing is that we are located here in the US, in the San Francisco Bay Area. So this is really nice for our clients. The turnaround times are really fast. They don't have to worry about the IP leakage, which can be a challenge or concern when they do offshoring to other countries with loose IP protection regimens. So basically, we've developed our expression platform, and whenever, say, a very customized solution is needed for a client, considering some of these molecules, like I said, are really difficult to express proteins, and then since the technologies are homegrown, we can build custom solutions for them and quickly come up with a strategy on how we would develop that molecule further. And so that works really good for both the client and for us, that we can have a customized solution for them in case there's an unexpected bump in the road. So this year, all our next generation R&D technology programs in the pipeline are showing extremely good data, have been showing, and these are the next generation that I'm talking about, and will be coming to market in the next year. So 2023 will be a great breakout year for us, with several of our new products and services coming online, allowing us to leapfrog all the legacy solutions that are currently available in the market.
It's great, but I also sort of tie your career back to a portion of this as well, that the learnings that you had seemed to me like they would have been so important as you went to sort of grow the company and bootstrap it the way that you did. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there's other reasons, why you're here at this moment in time?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, because I had worked at all these different companies and had experiences, and it was like, how do you take these products that are, from a small scale? How do you make a manufacturing platform out of it? And there are challenges in there. You can do something at a small scale and flash, but when it comes to taking the same product and scaling it up for, now you're talking about 1,000 patients, how are you going to do that? That's a completely different. You can't, but just by doing, brute force and increasing your manufacturing capacity, that's not a solution.
No.
So this is what I've learned bringing in new technologies at various companies as I've worked. How can we make this faster? How can we reduce the timelines? We have several programs going on in parallel. How do we reduce those timelines? How do we make it more cost effective? Those were all the learnings that I had in my career. And as I built Celltheon, I'm like, we really need to focus on this, because this is where we are going with the next generation molecules that we are building. We have to be smarter in how we work with bringing these to market.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have seen this before where, you can't necessarily rush cell culture growth either. So it's something that only happens within certain conditions at certain points in time. And you have to sort of, somewhat be patient. But at the same time, there are things that you could do to help the cells feel well fed and, have the opportunity to grow as well. So, yeah.
I remember when I first started at Gilead, they were all small molecule people. And this was the first biologics they had acquired, actually, a startup company called Arresto that I was at. And we had two antibody products that were looking very promising for oncology and for IPF. And I remember the manufacturing global head came over and he's like, Amita, why can't you just hire and put more people to make these cells grow faster? Like it doesn't work like your small molecules there. Your cells have to double at a certain time, and it's going to take its time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe
So it's
you
a
could,
different concept.
maybe the example could have been too, could you, make instant bread or, do something else to grow, I don't know, grow children
Yeah.
faster or, I don't know. There's other examples I mentally come up with. Again, I'm not the scientist. I mean, I
Yeah,
frequently
yeah,
tell
yeah. I
people
got
that
that.
on the podcast. I've worked in this industry across a lot of different, sort of verticals. So I do know a fair amount about different things that happen, but at the same time, I'm not the person like you who's been in the lab and spent all this time and really, knows everything. But I take along my simple examples like,
Of
there's
bread
only
and
so
yogurt
fast that you can rise bread.
that you
So, yeah.
absolutely.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face at Celltheon?
So we are at Celltheon, we've been focused on leading edge technology development, and this is very expensive
Mm,
undertaking for a small startup company. Most investors will not fund R&D technology platforms, and what they fund is drug development. Gets most of the funding, as you know, even though it's more risky. And the next level of funding goes to medical devices, manufacturing facilities, or equipment development. So as a result, one of the challenges has been funding all of this development from our personal funds and our services revenue. And also, we have not had the kind of R&D budget that big pharma companies are able to, dedicate to such platform technology development. However, with our constrained budgeting, has worked actually as a blessing in disguise for our R&D team. And we've learned to work very thoughtfully and not just proceed down the wrong technology path. As a result, most of our R&D programs have succeeded wildly and within very short timelines.
very
So
good.
I think that has been a little bit of a challenge, but now we are starting to get so much traction. Clients are coming because they're seeing the value, and we've successfully transferred a lot of their molecules to CMOs, and they are working in various clinical phases they are now.
And where do you see the biggest opportunities for Celltheon?
So we've launched some of our leading patented cell line development platforms, and these have been used by clients, for generating uh, and we've been generating revenue from these products, and we have recurring clients that continue to come for our cell line development. And we see that there is a lot of growth in this space. But now, with the new technologies, we also see that there is a lot more opportunity. We are at that, like you mentioned before, we are at that time where the need of these technologies is. And we did our market research, and that's why we developed all these technologies. And we see an opportunity that we are going to be able to step in and bring these technologies for all these new modalities we have now, and we'll be able to step in and and handle some of the challenges that are there in the manufacturing space right now.
Very good. And then there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
So I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, and I really wanted to make a difference in patients' lives. And that is the reason why we are here in biotech. We work because at the end of the day, we want to uh, make a difference in their lives. And for me, then I want to help bring the next generation of therapeutics to patients by building these smarter technologies. So people that are, for me, it's seeing that people that are knowledgeable, they have strategic visions of what will be needed tomorrow and have the capability to execute on that vision and have good work ethics. These kind of people really inspire me the most.
Thank you for sharing that. And then what concerns you?
So there are a few things in the industry that are really of concern to me. Our industry as a whole has been largely very successful on creating therapeutics for disease symptoms management, but has not focused has focused less on cure, right? So this is not the way we are going to continue to. If we are going to continue to just work on symptoms and not on the cure, then that is not the way to move forward of the human race going forward, and being you know much more uh, a whole human beings. We are looking to see where we can kind of get, excel and do other things. But if we are stuck with like chronic conditions, chronic diseases, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, all of these, then it pulls us down rather than, help us grow forward. So that is why one of the concern in what we've been developing so far. The other is the high cost of drug development, and the risk of failure are other factors of concern because they impede the growth of the global biopharmaceutical industry. And if you see, hundreds of millions of dollars are required to bring any drug product to market because of all that it takes from discovery, development, manufacturing, clinical trials, and regulatory approvals of all these phases. So it's very expensive, the whole process. And the next thing is all these the industry inertia that leads to build out of these outdated manufacturing technology infrastructures, sometimes resulting in overcapacity of these unaffordable products. So we just continue to brute force and build these large facilities, and the drugs get expensive and expensive. Are they going to be affordable, really? So
Yeah, right.
that's a really big challenge. However, that is what we've looked at and addressed, that you really have to have smart solutions. So we focused on that and are building technologies which are going to will be bringing to market soon, and that's going to hopefully change for the better.
It's so important, and yeah, I think about some of the friends that I have that are working on very early stage drugs. I mean, they talk about how expensive even their preclinical research has to be, right? And I mean, it just seems to me like it's in some cases it's I'm sure daunting to try and think about how much money they have to try and raise just to get started as well. It can be a challenge for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And so many programs just go under because
Yeah.
of how the clinical trials are also done. We need to get smarter about how we're doing our clinical trials.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then lastly, what excites you?
Well, technological progress is exponential with solutions and products coming faster as technology matures and building blocks become easily available. So, the progress in genomic sciences and the increasing use of AI in drug development will increase productivity, efficiency, and production of life saving and quality of life drugs faster than ever before. And we are at that hockey stick moment where our focus is shifting to affordable cures rather
Yeah.
than symptoms management. So,
Mm.
going forward, this can only be good for humanity, and for the quality of human life. And that is what is exciting. If we can really, as I mentioned before, to really shift towards the cures rather than the symptoms, then that is where, and hopefully with gene therapy, cell therapy, we'll be able to attain those and get a better quality of life for human beings.
Yeah, from a technological standpoint, and I think I said this in an earlier response that I had to one of your answers, that I'm, I'm frequently amazed, one, by the things that oftentimes we'll see, in the publications, as well as, the things that make it to the press as well. And, I also look forward to, the future of not just technology in terms of what we have today, but also the further expansion of, things that are, out there and available. And so, I look forward to seeing what comes from Celltheon, and what, additional, things that you talk about, that will be released in 2023 as well.
Three, absolutely.
Well, Amita Goel, thank you so much for being on the Life Science Success Podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here and sharing the story of Celltheon and what you're working on. And certainly, as you progress and as new things come out, please come back and share with the audience a little bit more. I greatly appreciate your being here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Don. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.